Hello and Assalamu alaikum, dear all students. I'm your educator Majid, and I have just started a series for class 10 students for the subject of biology. And today I'm recording my first lecture on nutrition in plants. Nutrition in plants. Nutrition in plants. Okay. Like other organisms, the plant. Suppose I'm drawing a plant here. The plant, plant, plant also requires food. The plant also requires food. This food can this food gives or provides this food provides energy to the plant, to the plant to the plant for performing its various metabolic activities metabolic activities. Fine. So plant requires food for performing its various metabolic activities. Now, unlike animals, suppose if there is an animal, what animals do, they traverse from one place to another in search of food. Once they search the food, they ingest it and derive energy from it for their various metabolic activities. But what plants do, green plants stand still, stand still, plants stand still and synthesize their own food, synthesize their own food, synthesize their own food by a process called chlorophyll. Sorry, by a process called photosynthesis. By a process called photosynthesis. Fine. So the question arises here: what is this photosynthesis? What is this photosynthesis? If we break down this term, photosynthesis, it is made up of two parts. Photo, the first part is photo, which means light. Photo means light, and the second part is synthesis. Synthesis means synthesizing something. Synthesis means build up. So the term photosynthesis literally means photosynthesis means building up something in presence of light. Building up something in presence of light. Okay. Now the question which arises in our minds is, how do plants perform this process of photosynthesis? How they are capable of performing this process of photosynthesis? The answer to this question lies in the structural organization of plants. Suppose if we look at a plant cell, suppose I'm making a plant cell right here. This is a plant cell, representation of a plant cell. Inside the plant cell, the plants possess an extra organelle which animals lack. This extra organelle is double membrane bound, semi-autonomous organelle, double membrane bound organelle. This double membrane bound organelle, and this double membrane bound organelle, it is known as chloroplast. And inside of this chloroplast, they have chlorophyll. They have a special green pigment known as chlorophyll, and it's because of this chlorophyll the plants are capable of synthesizing their own food. It's because of this pigment. Plants are capable of synthesizing their own food. What this chlorophyll does is, with the help of this chlorophyll, green plants are able to absorb and trap sunlight energy and convert the sunlight energy and trap and absorb and trap the sunlight energy and convert it to chemical form of energy energy. Fine. Now, then that chemical energy which was formed during this process of photosynthesis, it is used to make glucose from water and carbon dioxide. Fine. Now, what I told you that green autotrophic plants are capable of synthesizing their own food by a process called photosynthesis. Then we broke down the term photosynthesis. Photo means light, and synthesis means building up. And now then the question arises: how the green plants are capable of performing the process of photosynthesis? The answer to that question lied in the basic structural organization of plants. Plant cells possess a special type of double membrane organelle. That organelle we call that chloroplast, and inside of chloroplast there is a special type of a green pigment called chlorophyll, and this chlorophyll, because of this pigment, plants were capable of synthesizing their own food. And then green plants were able to absorb and trap the sunlight energy and convert it to chemical form of energy, and the chemical form of energy was then used to convert the water and carbon dioxide into food, that's glucose. Fine. And it is because of this chlorophyll, and it's because of this chlorophyll, it is because of this pigment, 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 the different plant parts appear green to us. Plant parts appear green. Fine. It's because of this chlorophyll. Chlorophyll imparts green color to the plant parts, like leaves, and sometimes some plants have stem, the color of stem as green. Fine. Now we have reached a point where we can define the process of photosynthesis. So if we try to define the term photosynthesis, we can define the term photosynthesis as the process by which green plants synthesize their own food, like what? Like glucose. Food like glucose from where? From inorganic molecules like carbon dioxide, that is CO2, and water by using sunlight energy in the presence of chlorophyll. So how we define this process of photosynthesis? We define the process of photosynthesis as a process by which green plants synthesize their own food, like glucose. Green plants synthesize the organic molecule like glucose from inorganic molecules like carbon dioxide and water, by using sunlight energy. They require light energy, and this light energy comes from sun. That's why it's known as sunlight energy. And in the presence of chlorophyll, chlorophyll is very important in the process of photosynthesis. Fine. So we define this process as photosynthesis. So photosynthesis is a process whereby green plants do? They synthesize their own food. Fine. From inorganic molecules like carbon dioxide and water. There must be sunlight and there must be chlorophyll. Both the things are important, sunlight as well as chlorophyll. Fine. Okay. Now we can represent the process of during the process of photosynthesis there is also release of oxygen gas as well. And during the process of photosynthesis, the oxygen gas evolves as well. Fine. Oxygen gas evolves as well. Oxygen gas is the gas which we use to inhale. Fine. It is the gas which we use to inhale. Fine. Now we can represent the we can represent we can represent the process of photosynthesis as how we can represent the process of photosynthesis. We know during at the time of photosynthesis we required carbon dioxide, we also required water, H2O, and we also required light energy, and that light energy came from where? Light energy came from sun, light energy. Fine. And in the presence of chlorophyll, fine, the presence of chlorophyll. And this carbon dioxide came from where? Came from atmospheric air, and this water came from soil. Okay, fine. And this chlorophyll, chlorophyll was present where? Chlorophyll was present in the green leaves of a plant or any other green structure of a plant. Fine. And by performing the process of photosynthesis, and this light energy came from sun. Okay, and by performing the process of photosynthesis, we get C6H12O6. That's simplest of the foods. That's glucose. We get glucose. What is glucose? It's a type of food. Fine. And there's also evolution of oxygen gas. Fine. Oxygen gas is also released, and there is also some loss of some water. Fine. Loss of some water because of the process of transpiration. Fine. Now the plant got this carbon dioxide. Now if we try to make a diagram of this, if we try to understand this further, this process, I am making a structure of a plant here. This is a plant. I'm making here stem of a plant. Okay, and these are the underground structures of a plant. What are the underground structures of a plant? These are what? These are roots of a plant. Fine. And this is the stem of a plant. And from the stem arises the shoots, and in the shoots we have leaves, and I'm making one leaf here. Fine. This is leaf. Fine. And as we know, plant requires firstly it requires what? It requires water. Plant requires water. Water and carbon dioxide act as water. This water and carbon dioxide act as raw materials during the process of photosynthesis. Fine. So plant acquires this water. It's present in soil. Plant acquires this water from soil. Here are water molecules in the soil which are absorbed by the plant. These water molecules are absorbed through the root hairs of a plant, through the root hairs of a plant by a process called osmosis. Okay, I'm assuming that you have already learned about this process, osmosis. Basically, osmosis is the moment of water molecules. It's the moment of water molecules from higher concentration to lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane, membrane. Fine. Membrane. Now this plant got into the roots of a plant, and then the plant flows through through a special vessel. That vessel is known as xylem. And it is carried all the way through to a leaf. Now the water reached the leaf. Fine. The first raw material. Now we need to transport the second raw material. The second raw material is carbon dioxide. We got the water. Now we require carbon dioxide. We need to give the plant its second raw material for performing the process of photosynthesis. And as we know, on the surface of a leaf, leaf has two surfaces, upper surface and lower surface. Fine. On the surface of a leaf, there are numerous tiny structures, tiny pore-like structures, and those tiny pore-like structures are known as stomata. These tiny pore-like structures are known as stomata. Basically, this stomata is provided, or the stomatal pore is made by two guard cells. It is provided with two guard cells. I'm making two guard cells here. Okay, this is the first guard cell. This is the first guard cell. and this is the second God cell. Fine, these are the two God cells. Okay, these are the two God cells. Here they are in a relaxed state. They are in a relaxed state, and in the relaxed state, the stomatal pore is closed. The stomata is closed. The stomata is closed. Once the water enters into these, enters into these what? Once the water enters into these God cells, they take the shape of a bean structure. They take the shape of our kidneys or a bean structure, and small aperture is exposed in between these two God cells. This small aperture is exposed in these two God cells. That's known as stomata. That's known as stomata. Fine. What happened during this process? Endoosmosis took place. Endoosmosis. Endoosmosis is nothing but it's just intake of water. It is intake of water. Intake of water. Once water enters into these God cells, once water enters into these God cells, they swelled. And once they swelled, they exposed the pore. This pore is known as stomata. Fine. And the second raw material, that's carbon dioxide, enters into the leaves through these small apertures known as stomata. Fine. Now we have both the raw materials. The first, water, and the second, carbon dioxide. Water came from soil through the roots, through the xylem vessel into the leaf, and the second one was carbon dioxide. On the surface of a leaf, there were numerous tiny structures or tiny pores. Those pores are known as what? Stomata. And through these pores, atmospheric carbon dioxide came and entered into the leaf for performing the process of photosynthesis. Now we had both the raw materials. Now this plant has both the raw materials, that is water and carbon dioxide. Plant also requires, as we earlier said, that plant also requires light energy, and it comes from the sun. It mainly comes from the sun, and the light energy comes from sun. Now the plant has three ingredients. The first was water, the second raw material was carbon dioxide. It also required light energy that came from sun. It also has chlorophyll. It also has chlorophyll. Where is this chlorophyll located? It is located in the double membrane bound organelle called chloroplast. Fine. In the chloroplast, and in the presence of all these ingredients, the plant synthesizes its food, and the food is synthesized in the simplest of its forms, that's glucose. That is glucose. It's synthesized in glucose. Fine. Once the glucose is synthesized, there's also release of oxygen as well. Which we use to inhale. Fine. And the oxygen leaves the leaves the leaf through these small apertures called stomata, and the oxygen also comes out through these small apertures called stomata. Fine. And now the glucose is made. Plant makes a lot of glucose. Fine. And this glucose is sent to various parts of the plant, to the upper parts of the plant. Suppose these are the upper parts, to the upper parts of the plant, the bottom parts of the plant, these bottom parts of the plant, and a plant uses this food, simplest of the food, glucose, and for its various metabolic activities. Now the thing is, when there is sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide, enough of it, plant synthesizes enough of the oxygen, and plant synthesizes enough of the glucose, and extra amount of glucose which plant synthesizes, it is stored in the form of another food called starch. Fine. Called starch. Plant synthesizes this starch, and this starch is used by the plant when there happens to be no photosynthesis. At that time, plant utilizes this starch as it is food. Fine. At the time of when plant cannot perform the process of photosynthesis, as we see during the winter, the plant is incapable, or plant is not capable of synthesizing its food, because there are conditions where certain ingredients which are required for a plant to perform the process of photosynthesis are not present, so it turns on its stored food material. Basically, this starch is a reserve food material. It's a reserve food material. In plants. Reserve food material in plants. Fine. Reserve food material in plants. Now we have understood this process of photosynthesis, but for understanding the more advanced level of photosynthesis, we divide the process of photosynthesis in two parts. We can divide the process of photosynthesis into two parts. And the first part or the first phase of photosynthesis is known as light phase. It is known as light phase, or light reaction. Light phase or light reaction. Light phase or light reaction. It's also known as Hill's reaction. Hill's reaction. Fine. And the second phase is known as dark reaction. It is known as dark phase. It's known as dark phase or dark reaction. I'm writing RXN for reaction, or black man's reaction. Black man's reaction. Fine. Black man's reaction. Now, if we talk about the light reaction, as its name implies, it occurs or it takes place in the presence of light. Fine. Now, if we talk about light reaction, first part of the photosynthesis. This is the first part of photosynthesis. It is light reaction. Light reaction. Light reaction. Fine. Light reaction. What are the processes that take place, or what are the steps that take place during light reaction? Okay. For understanding light reaction, I'm writing the representation of photosynthesis again. We require 6 times carbon dioxide, 12 times water, 12 times water, 12 times water, 12 times water, light energy, and in the presence of chlorophyll, we got C6H12O6, and we also got some amount of oxygen and some amount of water as well. Fine. What happens during light reaction? This water is broken down. Or this water is oxidized. It is oxidized. Fine. This water is oxidized into what? Into oxygen. Fine. During light reaction, the various steps which take place during light reaction, or the first and foremost step, is activation of chlorophyll. Activation of chlorophyll. Fine. Before moving to this, I want to make sure that you know the structure of chloroplast. Okay, I made a chloroplast here. We suppose that plants have a double membrane bound organelle. Here it's a double membrane bound organelle. Here double membrane bound organelle. It's a double membrane bound organelle. Here we have a double membrane bound organelle here, and inside, and this is the outer membrane of chloroplast. This is the inner membrane of chloroplast, and in between these two membranes, that's outer membrane and inner membrane, there is a space, and this space is known as intermembrane space. And the inner membrane of chloroplast encloses a space, and this space is known as stroma. It's a jelly aqueous-like fluid. Fine. It's jelly-like fluid here, and this is known as stroma. Fine. And this is known as stroma, and this stroma possesses enzymes. This stroma contains enzymes for dark reaction. And inside this stroma there are coin-like structures. This single coin-like structure here, if I'm making here, suppose this single coin-like structure is known as thylakoid. It is known as thylakoid. Fine. When suppose here I'm making this is thylakoid, this single coin-like structure is thylakoid. When these thylakoids pile upon one another, here, it is known as grana. Fine. Single coil-like structures, this single coil-like structure would be known as thylakoid, and when these thylakoids pile upon one another, then they are known as grana. Fine. And these grana are also connected with one another by fine thread-like structures, and these structures are known as stromal lamellae. And the chlorophyll is exactly present in between the stacks of thylakoids here. Fine. In between the stacks here. Okay, I'm highlighting it here. Thylakoids, in between the sacs of thylakoids here, the chlorophyll is present here, the green pigment. Fine. And it is this it is this thalliquid where the light reaction takes place. Fine, and these thalliquid enclose a space, and this space is known as lumen. Fine, this space is known as lumen. This space is known as lumen. I am marking this, or I'm filling the lumen space in black dots, by black dots. I'm filling the lumen space by black dots. This black dotted spot, this is known as lumen. Fine, and why does the light reaction take place? Light reaction takes place here. Light reaction takes place. Light reaction takes place in lumen of thalliquid. Fine. So there is both temporal and spatial differentiation between the two reactions. That means light reaction and dark reaction. Light reaction takes place in the lumen of thalliquid, and dark reaction takes place in the stroma. Fine, in the stroma of chloroplast. Fine. Now let's come back to light reaction. This light reaction is taking place where? Now we know that site of occurrence. Site of occurrence of light reaction is what? Lumen of thalliquid. Okay, I'm bringing this. I'm bringing a structure of it here. This thalliquid. I'm bringing it there. This thalliquid for you. Okay. And now I'm pasting it here. So this is the thalliquid. This is was the lumen of thalliquid where the light reaction is taking place. Fine. And this light reaction is taking place during the daytime, during the light, when light is present. Fine. And the different steps involved in light reaction are: first one is the activation of chlorophyll. When there is light comes and activates chlorophyll. Fine. Chlorophyll is activated. This activation of chlorophyll, we can say activation of chlorophyll by light. It is activated by light. Once the chlorophyll is activated, what chlorophyll does? It releases energy. It releases energy in the form of ATP. What is this ATP? ATP is adenosine triphosphate. It is adenosine triphosphate. Fine. And it also releases some electrons as well. Fine. You just have to remember that it releases ATP. Fine. Okay. And this is the first step. The second step is that during light reaction there is hydrolysis of water. Hydrolysis means breakdown of water. Hydrolysis or breakdown of water molecule. Fine. And this when this water molecule is split into hydrogen ions and oxygen. Fine. Hydrogen ions and oxygen. Fine. And this oxygen is released during what? This oxygen is released during light reaction or light phase of photosynthesis. Fine. And the third step in light reaction is there is also production of some reducing powers like NADP. This NADP is reduced. Fine. When we add hydrogen to something, it gets reduced, and we get NADPH. Fine. We get NADPH. What is this NADPH? This NADPH is nicotine amide, adenine dinucleotide, nicotine amide adenine dinucleotide. Fine. Now during light reaction, what are the products we got? First, during light reaction was occurring in the lumen of thalliquid. Fine. And during light reaction there was oxidation of water. Fine. And the first step during light reaction was activation of chlorophyll by light. Chlorophyll was activated by light, and once the chlorophyll was activated, it released energy in the form of ATP. This ATP. The second thing was hydrolysis or breakdown of water. Water was broken down into hydrogen ions or protons and oxygen, and this oxygen is exposed or expelled by the plant through stomata to the outside environment or into the atmospheric air. Fine. And the third thing was NADP, nicotine amide adenine dinucleotide. Fine. Dinucleotide was being what? Reduced into NADP. The two main products of light reaction are ATP and NADPH. ATP and NADPH. Okay, we will write here what are the products of the light reaction. The products of light reaction are the first one is ATP, that is energy currency of a cell. NADPH, fine, and oxygen. Oxygen was released into the air, but the thing is, we will need this ATP, this energy currency of cell ATP and NADPH into dark reaction. Fine. This would be this ATP and NADPH. Where was light reaction taking place? It was taking place in the lumen of thalakite. Now ATP and NADPH were being produced here into the lumen. Now this ATP and NADPH would be taken to the stroma. They will be taken to the stroma. Fine, stroma. And in stroma, we know that the dark reaction takes place in the stroma. Now, we are here to discuss the second part of photosynthesis, or the second reaction of photosynthesis. Second reaction. Fine. What was that? Dark reaction. Dark reaction. Dark reaction. Dark reaction. Fine. Dark reaction, or also known as black man's reaction. It was also known as black man's reaction. And this black man's reaction or dark reaction took place where? In the stroma of thalakite. Fine. There in dark reaction there's only one important step that occurs. We have to go back to the reaction that we wrote down, the reaction of photosynthesis that we wrote down earlier here. Fine, we wrote it here. Okay, I will write it again for you people. We wrote the photosynthesis reaction of photosynthesis as carbon dioxide, fine, plus water. They combined in the presence of light energy, and in the presence of chlorophyll they formed C6H12O6, that is glucose, fine, and oxygen and water. Fine. Till now we saw there was only production of oxygen. During light reaction there was only production of oxygen by splitting of water. We do not have any glucose molecule produced yet. We do not produce any glucose molecule during light reaction. But during dark reaction, what happens? This carbon dioxide is reduced. This carbon dioxide is reduced to what? To glucose. What is reduction? Again, reduction is the addition of hydrogen. Here, hydrogen is added. Hydrogen is added to what? Carbon. Fine, that's reduction. In dark reaction there appears to happen only one reaction, that is this carbon dioxide is converted, or we can say it is reduced to glucose. Fine. It is reduced to glucose. Fine. It is reduced to glucose. How it is reduced to glucose? This carbon dioxide uses ATP that we produce during light reaction plus NADPH, this ATP and NADPH, and this carbon dioxide gets reduced into glucose, C6H12O6, and we get to form the food of a plant. Fine. Now we are in a position where we can define the process of photosynthesis in more advanced form. We can say the process of the photosynthesis is a process. Photosynthesis is a process during which green plants synthesize their own food from simple inorganic compounds like carbon dioxide and water by utilizing sunlight energy in the presence of chlorophyll, or we can also see that photosynthesis is oxidoreduction reaction. Why oxidoreduction reaction? Because there is oxidation or breakdown of what? There is oxidation of water and reduction of carbon dioxide. Fine. Now, as we saw in the dark reaction, what happened during dark reaction? This dark reaction was known as black man's reaction as well. Why it is called a dark reaction? Because there is no requirement of any light source there. So that's why it's called titration. We saw here that we do not need any light here. We only need what? The products of titration. What were the products of titration? The products of titration were, the first one was ATP and the second one was ADP, NADPH. And these two products of titration were being used for converting this carbon dioxide, simple inorganic molecule, carbon dioxide, into organic molecule. That is what? That is glucose, a form of food for a type of food for a plant. Fine. And what was the site of occurrence of this dark reaction? Site of occurrence was what? It was stroma of thylakoid, stroma of chloroplast. Fine. I hope the concept of photosynthesis is clear to you. Thank you.